It was one of aviation history's most dramatic freak accidents. On September 29, 1940, in Brockelsby, Australia, two massive Avro Ansons crashed mid-air while banking a turn at 1,000 feet above the ground. Metal clamped onto metal as the training planes became entangled. The crew of the lower aircraft immediately bailed, sensing the impending doom. Jack Hewson, pilot of the lower plane, stayed behind. He trusted the unique capabilities of his old Anson and revved its engines to full throttle, compensating for the sudden crushing weight that threatened to drag them both from the sky. Familiarity and instinct kicked in as Hewson's hands danced across the controls of the plane pilots called Faithful Annie. Though primarily used as a training and tech testing platform, the modest British wooden Anson was about to have its famed reliability pushed to the very limit of what was imaginable, as pilot Leonard Fuller braced himself for the unthinkable, an attempt to land his warplane, with Hewson's Anson stuck below it. The Avro Anson wasn't cut out for the dogfights and combat theatrics of wartime. Its lineage was rooted in the world of commercial aviation. In the early 1930s, Imperial Airways rolled out a specification for a light airliner. Avro stepped up to the plate with their 652 model, a twin-engine, low-wing monoplane, complete with retractable undercarriage and a tailwheel. Only two of these commercial birds ever saw the light of day. However, they laid the groundwork for something far more consequential. The RAF, in its quest to modernize, was on the hunt for a reliable land plane for coastal maritime reconnaissance. They were already amassing a fleet of flying boats for the same job, but those waterborne machines had a hitch. They were hard to manage in choppy sea conditions. Eager to fill this gap, Avro submitted a tweaked version of the original 652, rechristened as the 652A, to the Air Ministry. The British brass wasn't exactly bowled over by the design, but it piqued their interest enough to order a single prototype for evaluation. On March 24, 1935, the fledgling aircraft flew for the very first time. Through the spring of that year, the Air Ministry pitted this prototype against a rival model by de Havilland in a gamut of evaluation trials. Both contenders aced the test, flying through the RAF's requirements with flying colors. But when the dust settled, the Avro prototype took home the blue ribbon. The Air Ministry doubled down on their choice and laid out a fresh set of specifications for Avro, targeting the production of a twin-engine coastal reconnaissance aircraft. An inaugural batch of 174 units was ordered, and the aircraft was officially named the Anson. Hot on the heels of this decision, the first production model of the Anson took to the sky, making its inaugural flight on New Year's Eve in 1935. While its design was fine-tuned, a larger horizontal tailplane and a trimmed-down elevator span for added stability, the essence remained largely unchanged from its commercial roots, except now it was dressed in military camouflage, ready to play its part on the world stage. The Anson Mark I wasn't out to win any beauty pageants or break engineering boundaries. Its charm lay in its simplicity and adaptability, qualities that would catapult it to fame in its service career. Much of its DNA was a direct carryover from its commercial ancestor, the original 652. Built as a low-wing twin-engine monoplane, its wings were an unpretentious laminated blend of spruce and plywood. Its fuselage, meanwhile, was made of a sturdy steel framework swathed in fabric. Measuring 12.88 meters in length, boasting a 17.22-meter wingspan, and towering at a maximum height of 3.99 meters, the Anson struck an imposing figure, and it achieved this without resorting to high-tech materials or complex engineering. Under the hood, Armstrong-Siddeley Cheetah air-cooled radial engines propelled the Anson, specifically the Mark IX variant. Sporting 7 cylinders and 13.65 liters of displacement, these engines pumped out a modest 335 horsepower, spinning a 2-blade fixed-pitch propeller. It was not as powerful as some of its contemporaries. The Pratt & Whitney R1830 Twin Wasp, for instance, a powerhouse that churned out a staggering 1,200 horsepower and powered fearsome warplanes such as the B-24 Liberator and the Douglas DC-3. Despite its underdog status in the engine department, the Anson's top speed clocked in at a respectable 303 kilometers per hour, while cruising comfortably at 254 kilometers per hour. With a range of 570 nautical miles, it was clear the aircraft was tailored for endurance and maritime patrol, rather than duking it out in aerial dogfights. In its early operational days, the Anson flew with a lean 3-man crew, a pilot at the helm, a navigator pulling double duty as a bomb aimer, and a gunner multitasking on the radio. Economical, yet not skimping on essentials, the Anson was the first RAF aircraft to enter service, boasting retractable landing gear, its wheels neatly folding up under the engine nacelles. But there was a catch. The landing gear was hand-cranked, demanding 144 grueling turns from the pilot whenever it was landing time. Armament was light but functional, a forward-facing 303 Vickers machine gun in the nose, aimed by the pilot, complemented by a manually operated dorsal turret that housed a single Lewis gun. When decked out for maritime patrol, the Anson had the capacity to lug up to 160 kilograms of bombs under its wings. These ordnances would be aimed via the bomb aimer situated in the nose of the aircraft. Though not a game-changer by any stretch, the Anson didn't aim to rewrite the rulebook. It aimed to be dependable. And even in its embryonic stage, pilots quickly realized they could bank on its reliability, come hell or high water. The Avro Ansons' journey with the RAF kicked off in March 1936, with the 48th Squadron being the first to roll out the new machines. From then until the smoke of World War II began to billow in 1939, 26 RAF squadrons, spanning both coastal and bomber commands, embraced this versatile aircraft. It didn't just excel at naval reconnaissance, it was a proving ground for cutting-edge aviation tech, including fledgling radar systems. The Anson was a jack of all trades, and its adaptability didn't go unnoticed. Its capabilities made it an excellent training vessel, prepping an entire cohort of fledgling pilots for the looming crucible of World War II. Then came September 1939. War cast its grim shadow over the globe once again, putting the Anson in an awkward position. By then, its specs were clearly outdated, eclipsed by the next generation of aircraft. Even in the face of an acute shortage of British warplanes in the early war years, the Anson was seen as a hard sell for combat roles, too slow and too lightly armed. But war is unpredictable. When its slated successor, the Lockheed Hudson, was caught in a production bottleneck, the RAF had no choice but to press some Anson aircraft into maritime reconnaissance and even strike operations. Piloting what they knew was a dated wooden aircraft, the airmen behind the Anson showed grit and gumption. They launched audacious assaults on German U-boats in the opening salvos of the conflict. However, their limited payload meant only a bullseye would inflict real harm on the enemy, and more often than not, the Ansons merely ruffled the feathers of German submarines, rather than dealing a death blow. During the fraught evacuation of Dunkirk, a handful of Ansons pulled off a miraculous feat. They not only survived a skirmish against the powerful German Bf-109s, but also downed a couple of these enemy planes over the choppy waters of the English Channel. This improbable victory marked the Anson's final combat contributions to the RAF before it was fully relegated to the role of a training aircraft. When the Lockheed Hudson finally filled the skies in sufficient numbers, the Anson gracefully pivoted back to what it did best, serving as a training and tech platform. Here, the aircraft thrived, gaining its enduring nickname, the Faithful Annie. This versatile workhorse allowed the RAF to tick off a considerable list of bomber training needs, from piloting and navigation to gunnery and even aircraft evacuation, all under one roof. Fueling the Anson's success in this arena was its substantial production run. Over 6,000 Mark I models were churned out, giving it a strong presence in training camps. Then came the Mark II Anson, a variant forged entirely in Canada and equipped with Jacobs 6LMB R915 engines. Gone was the hand-cranked landing gear, replaced by a hydraulic system that gave pilots one less thing to worry about. Canada alone would see the assembly of more than 1,800 of these revamped warplanes. The Anson became a familiar face across the sprawling network of the British Commonwealth Air Training Plan. From Canada and the sun-drenched coast of Australia to Europe and New Zealand, airmen cut their teeth on the Anson before heading into the meat grinder of World War II. Canada, in particular, rolled out the red carpet for the Anson, operating over 4,000 units, 2/3 of them domestically built. As had happened to the RAF, when the chips were down during the early stages of the war, Canada was forced to deploy Ansons in active combat roles. during the Battle of the Atlantic, when every available resource was dwindling, a reconnaissance school in Charlottetown called its Ansons to action. These aircraft became unsung heroes in safeguarding Canadian shores and vessels from marauding German U-boats. The Anson's reputation as a stellar trainer spread like wildfire across the Commonwealth, sparking the creation of newer models to meet war-driven demand. The Mark III and IV variants were tailored to suit the Commonwealth Air Training Plan, with the Mark IV boasting more robust Wright Whirlwind R975 engines. And the Anson's legacy didn't stop at the war's end. India, for instance, continued to rely on it for years following its independence. The Royal Australian Air Force, on the other hand, stocked up over 1,000 Ansons, but faced an unexpected snag. Australia's scorching heat and humidity compromised the adhesive strength of the aircraft's wooden components. This led to an abrupt, though not dishonorable, retirement of the Anson fleet down under. The skies over Brockelsby, Australia, became the stage for an extraordinary tale, one that would add another layer to the Avro Ansons' already colorful legacy. What should have been a standard training mission took an unforeseen twist that catapulted it into the pages of aviation legend. Known today as the Brockelsby Incident, this event unfolded on September 29, 1940. A group of Ansons were engaged in a training exercise at an altitude of 1,000 feet. As they banked through a turn, disaster struck. Two planes collided, one crashing into the other and becoming entangled in its frame. Pilot Leonard Fuller later described the clash as, quote, a grinding crash and a bang as roaring propellers struck each other and bit into the engine cowlings. Amidst the confusion and shock, Jack Hewson, piloting the lower Anson, steadied his nerves and hit the throttle. With deft control, he took the engines to the brink, stabilizing both aircraft and averting a downward spiral to certain doom. Up above, Fuller found himself at a crossroads. As crew members parachuted out, expecting the worst, he remained at the helm. To his amazement, he found that he still had control, not just of his own Anson, but also of the one jammed beneath him. Through sheer skill and perhaps a dash of audacity, Fuller managed to fly both entangled aircraft approximately 8 kilometers using just his starboard engine. The improbable journey culminated in a belly landing on a paddock near a farm, saving both machines and all souls on board. This miraculous landing defied every expectation. No one lost their lives, no serious injuries marred the event. Both aircraft, though worse for wear, survived in a state that allowed for repairs, sparing upwards of $50,000 in potential losses. Fuller emerged as a hero, his actions celebrated far and wide. However, he was quick to share the spotlight with the Anson itself, praising its steadfast reliability as an integral element of their survival. The Anson had trained the airmen that won World War II, but it had done so in such an impressive way that it became a beloved aircraft across the globe. Orders flowed in even after the guns had fallen silent. While some were still designated for training, most transitioned to civilian use. The Anson became an all-rounder solution: an air taxi, a light transporter, a VIP shuttle, a mail courier, and a terrain surveyor. Its reputation as a safe and reliable workhorse made it a go-to choice for various roles that transcended its wartime origins. As time progressed, the Anson underwent an evolution to meet the demands of a new era. The C-19 model, for example, featured a thoroughly redesigned fuselage and all-metal wings. In all, 264 of these would take to the skies under the banner of the RAF, continuing to serve until their final retirement in 1968. By the end of its extensive career, the Anson had amassed statistics that were nothing short of remarkable. Over 11,000 units constructed across more than a dozen different variants and operated in over 30 different countries. From its humble beginnings as a slow-moving plane with wooden wings, the Anson had defied every limit and expectation.